Hello, and welcome to Resolve, an afterplay show. This is an after show for a role-playing game that does not have an actual play, where we tell you all the details of our game so you don't have to listen to it. I'm Sammie, I'll be your host. My pronouns are she, her, and I play Isiri the Mermaid. Joining me is my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I use he, him pronouns. I play Moogle bounty hunter Smog, and his Marlboro companion Juice both use he, him pronouns.
We are joined today by Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee. I use both she and they pronouns, and I play Geyser, a clown that is a problem.
We are also joined today by Dex.
Hello, I'm Dex Fan. I use he, him pronouns, and I am playing a furry, gender-bent version of Athena, who also uses he, him pronouns.
All right, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Now that we're all here, Alex, please tell us about the actual play.
Previously, in EFFETE, a coalition headed by the angry man from the church retrieves Susie and Dr. Acula before attempting to secure the church. The party follows them. Smog, Juice, and Isiri leave to find an elder while Pony checks on Horsefly. Geyser uses a magic powder to make two coalition members invisible and plants it on Father Shade. Tau creates a magic disco ball that lights moving objects. Athenos grows larger and expands the disco ball, making it affect the whole town. Isiri, Smog, and Juice locate a hut in an older part of town and knock on the door. The wary woman that Smog noticed in the church appears, transforming from a spider. After some explanation, she invites him inside and makes tea. Athenos makes a rain of magic arrows to track the beast. After swarming the people, they enter the woods. The coalition agrees to join the hunt after Tau and Father Shade settle them. Silkie Weaver tells Smog and Isiri more about the legend of the sleep beast passed through her family. The beast was forcefully put to sleep, represents the moon and night, and has a lesser-known counterpart representing the sun. Smog shares his resolution to recreate the spear. Mrs. Weaver falls to the ground, unconscious. Geyser, Tau, Athenos, and the coalition find Horsefly unconscious in his home, splattered with black ichor.
Let's do a deep dive into the session. We sort of immediately split off into a couple groups. We have Athenos, Tau, and Geyser in the church group, I guess. They're all hanging out with the coalition, and most of the town just sort of trying to figure out what the hell's going on with this sleep beast situation. Then Isiri and Smog and Juice kind of head off. They look for elders just for knowledge, and then Pony goes off to go check on Horsefly because they're not at any of these places.
I thought it was funny that Smog was the one who instigated going to the church because he thought the coalition had already gathered people there. Mm-hmm. And that might be a genuine miscommunication with me and Dan, but it ended up working out fine anyway. And then Smog was immediately, oh, there's no other people here. Goodbye.
Yeah. I figured on a meta level there was some incentive for you to, because you were already leaning a little bit towards the series non-violent solution that helped divide the party based on what the goals were for each split.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, I think Dan also didn't want us to discover too much just because Pony wasn't there. We wouldn't be able to find the core issue of the world in this particular session.
I don't know if we would have gotten there if Pony was around either. Not to say that Dan doesn't have his sense of pacing it, because I think he's doing a pretty good job now especially, but just anytime you're a GM, I think you overestimate how much your players might get done in a particular session.
Yes, that was a very, very true statement. But from what Dan and I have casually conversed about, ideally, we would end up wrapping up this world right before Halloween. That's his mental note. We'll see how accurate we stick to his projections.
Pacing's been pretty good to me. I haven't seen too much of a slowdown besides the very first session where we were kind of bringing ourselves into the campaign story. Do a lot in detail with individuals versus the characters as a group.
True, and I feel the first session of any campaign, it's always going to take longer because you're not quite 100% set in who your character is. You're not quite sure what their reactions will be, so everyone's thinking a bit more, and it takes a little bit more time to go from, oh, this is the prompt, this is my response, and the back and forth kind of just takes more time.
The character doesn't live in my head yet.
Around this session, I wasn't even understanding what was happening at first. So I try to listen hard, but sometimes things just go over your head. I probably said this out loud. I don't know what to do because I didn't. As soon as Athenos is like, I'm gonna cause a scene, I was like, this is my time.
Can I just say that the beginning of this session was off the rails?
In what way?
Oh, I don't know. You were immediately like, I'm gonna cause problems.
In my defense, I felt like we were doing a lot of investigation, but we weren't getting anywhere. At least in Athenos' mind, he was like, I'm no close. We're finding all of this information that is end goal information. But I need the now. I need the where's the beast? What is the beast? Or who is the beast? And how is it doing any of the things? We were seeing the after effects of the beast, but I still don't know what it looks like, its full range of abilities. It was this session in particular that we learned a lot about what the beast actually is. So I had to kick it off by just kind of going all right, I'm fed up with all of you not telling me anything. I'm just going to cause consequences and hope something happens.
It was perfect. I needed you to do that in that moment. Because otherwise I would just been like, I don't know, what does Geyser want to do? Because in general, in the back of her mind, there's always the undercurrent of cause problems. But it's not aimless. There's a reason. There's an underlying motivation. I didn't want to just act for the sake of acting. I wanted to behave in a way that the characters make sense. I didn't really discuss this part in session. I kind of just discussed what my plans were, which is try to make the townspeople fight amongst each other a little bit. They were being very vague. I agree. All the investigations we were doing, we could not get any hard answers about anything. It's just cerebral meta level, but we are here now and want to fix the problem. Susie's paw is knocked out, even though Smog blasted him with a spell. He's still knocked out.
Never gonna live that down.
You really aren't, because it was just so out of the blue.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, how can we help this sick and sleeping man who won't wake up? And Smog was like, what if we shot him? And then shot him.
What about violence? Actually, Geyser's very proud of Smog for that.
Geyser's like, can I get a light link, please?
Geyser's plan here was particularly devious because she tried to spin it as if someone in that group, or maybe even the beast, made people invisible, which let Athenos and Tau be white knights.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That part wasn't my intention.
Of
But
course
I'm
not.
glad it worked out that way. My ultimate intention, because in my experience, there's only a few things that get people talking. One, you bring up something they're really interested in. Or two, you make them so mad that they can't keep the words inside. If you make the people that are in the church mad at each other, or even the council members, they're going to start opening their mouths and saying things, and we won't have to do all of the work to get answers that still don't help us. The whole, we're gonna lead you to the forest, and that works too. I wasn't against that.
I'm just realizing that once again, I failed to squirrel in a moment to have Smog check the camera footage from the previous night.
Dang, you did even say that. You were like, this is the first thing I'm gonna do when we get into this session.
We don't quite have a connection for what the world of the Lost is. We don't know if the beast is connected to that. We don't know if that's even really connected to this world fully, or this is going to be something that sort of follows us as we go through the meta of the game, of each world. It would be nice to know that if there was some connection or not, if this thing is going to creep on us for the rest of the game.
We might have enough time because, as I said in the recap, people are starting to drop. So we're probably going to get pulled in there again soon. But we might have enough time for Smog to at least figure out where the fuck our stuff goes before it's gone.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting Isiri to volunteer to go to sleep again. I think that was a really brilliant idea, because you only sleep with half your brain to use the other half to communicate or whatever to the people that were awake. Because Geyser thinks a little bit, but not a whole lot. So Geyser's solution was like, punch me, please. Sleeping in the world of the lost didn't work out. Oh, the other thing that I thought was funny was that Athenos wanting to challenge the beast was the second time that happened. And the first time was Geyser, and it just resulted in Geyser becoming cold and casting magic on the fire to make the fire bigger because she was cold. I guess Dee, the player, and Dex, the player, are thinking similarly in the sense of, give me answers right now!
We really are.
Fight me!
It's like, show yourself. You've been hiding for like 4 sessions. I want to punch you.
Dex, I have to ask, what would have Athenos done if this thing had answered your challenge and come up in a black cloud in front of you or something?
This may surprise you, but it would have been to cast a lot of magic.
Wow, I'm so surprised.
It would have been like strike with intent.
Oh man.
We've already had sort of communication with it. Isiri's spoken to it once, and then it's reacted to Geyser negatively. I kind of also wanted to see if we could get it to speak more, to kind of get what its intention is. Thus far, it seems like a very malevolent force, and I think there was like some wiggle rooms. I actually think it's very fascinating where Isiri goes with the information that Silkie Weaver. Silkie Weaver. It's Silkie Weaver.
Honestly, that's such a nerd name.
It is. That's like a nerd's track name right there, Silkie Weaver.
Oh no, we've recreated Hedvig.
Oh no.
The band name that we have for this episode title.
Oh no. But yeah, I'm very curious with like the information that Silkie has given to Isiri and Smog. I feel like initially, like it seemed pretty cut and dry that this spirit is not acting with the people's best interest at heart. It does seem like, again, that there was like some sort of slight, there was some sort of attempt to put it to sleep before, perhaps a war between old gods, that kind of thing. But it was actually Smog who kind of saw the silver lining of the message that was given. So I'm very curious how it leads you to when you leave Silkie's hut and go find the beast as well.
I think what hit Smog most in sort of that vein this time is that there's a sun deity that we know next to nothing about. This has become more than a people losing faith in their deity and somehow absorbing it, maybe. And it has become a war between gods, which is not necessarily something that he feels right waging, which is why sort of towards the end when he was still like, yeah, I'm going to make the sphere, he was like, maybe this goes to Athenos. And we'll probably get into it more in later sessions, but Smog is looking to him as the one who is most like a deity, says he's a deity, and seems to be happy to have that role. Whereas there are a couple others in the party that are powerful, but don't seem to be embracing the concept that he's put on them.
Yeah, of espers.
Yes.
I think that's also interesting because I guess if I was cursorily thinking about it, I would think Smog would be, oh yes, I'm the chosen one to help the espers fight the good fight, and I'm here to show them the way, and we will all be great and magical and powerful again. But there's some counter logic, running there. Like, is this my fight? Your ethos was, espers against mortals, not between each other.
Yeah, it's also about like finding the bridge between them. But if there's 2 different ideas from 2 different deities, that's not his fight to resolve.
What's been really fun is like typically in a role-playing game, I am not the first person to say we should go fight something or fight someone. Usually I'm like, let's talk it out. Let's like figure out where they're coming from. And then if they're like still a horrible person with no moral compass, then we can fight them. But here I'm just like, I'm going to punch this thing. And I thought it was it was really fascinating how like Isiri was looking at it too, because she was talking about the tides and how there's probably like an ebb and flow to this world, and what if it was like a god of darkness and a god of light. Their power like waxes and wanes. So what if we're just in the moon god cycle and they naturally get stronger, but then as things naturally progress, perhaps the sun god returns and then pushes the moon god's power back? Or is something out of balance here? Like, I feel like she's trying to like fix the fabric of the world. Thanos is like, I see this guy and he's a problem.
I don't want peace, I want violence, always.
Maybe in more words, that's what Tao is thinking too. Part of his backstory is about AI gathering people to leech off of them to make a perfect world, and that doesn't sound too different from Sleep God putting everyone to sleep to rule over them, does it?
Not particularly, no. So I understand why Tao is very offended by everything going on here. But at the same time, Isiri's very conflicted, actually, now that I think about it, because if this is part of an ebb and flow cycle, then she really shouldn't be getting involved. But at the same time, if it's not what she thinks she is, she'll have regrets if she doesn't get involved. It's a very awkward position for her to be in because she is that bridge between the deity. And to be fair, she hasn't really spoken to the sun deity unless like the concept of change that she connected to upon entering the world is that. I'm not 100% sure that's the case. She wants to do something. She's not quite sure. She thinks Smog has a good plan right now with the spear situation, but she's not sure if it's to continue the story like she mentioned or if she needs to drastically alter the text.
Part of the conversation with Mrs. Weaver was about the possibility of recreating the legend, either putting the beast to sleep or changing it and trying to mend the relationship between these people and their deity. These people and their deity who they also are.
Yeah, right?
In some extent like that, which is an issue that we have yet to tease out.
Or like the deity's power is like a part of them?
I don't think necessarily they are also deities, but they definitely take some aspect or power from the sleep beast that gives them their animal form. So how are you fighting the thing that's giving you your powers? Mm-hmm. It's an odd disconnect.
Do you think the sleep beast is acting in this way because of the nature of what the church is? The church, as far as we know, doesn't worship a specific entity. Just the concept of change being forgotten like that is causing the beast to like, well, if you're not going to worship me, I'm going to put you to sleep. And now you have to be where I am.
I agree with that. And especially what Silkie said to Smog and Isiri at one point is she said something was broken, but she didn't know what. She said that her people have forgotten the worship of both of these deities, the sun and the moon. She's not sure what the whole situation is. Until we find out what's specifically broken, I don't know if we can make it right again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my concept of that right now is that it's literally some aspect of the beast, and that's what the people have. They have these pieces of the beast that they're using for their abilities to shapeshift.
Something that I feel has added like an additional layer of confusion is a couple of episodes back, we got drawn into another world from this world of spirit, and we got dragged into the world of the lost. It was through sleeping, so we had this additional layer of, is the beast related at all to the world of the lost? I feel like there's probably something tied in there since the villagers don't remember the beast. For them, it's like a lost deity. So, I don't know.
It did show up right as we appeared, and the sequence charter did just make a bunch of connections with different worlds. It could have hopped on to the sequence charter's transportation somehow, and that's why it appeared. If it was lost from the world and it went to the world of the lost and it came back some way, maybe there could be something to that.
Postulating that this might be a running theme, could these connections from sequence charter be the reason that when we go to these worlds they have such problems? Like, are we the problem?
Are we the drama?
Geyser's definitely the drama.
Yes, Geyser wants to be. It's for a reason.
Geyser's Twitter bio is like aspiring drama.
Excuse me, you forgot teacher at the end of that?
We've gotten into a series background the most like through play, but I don't think we've like teased out the kind of relationships to the characters that the backgrounds have had yet. And it's still like early in the campaign, so I think we will have more opportunities to dive deep into things like that. Geyser wants to cause problems, but it's not indiscriminate. The same thing for Athenos. Athenos had I'm going to cause an issue in this circumstance for this reason. Even Smog wants people to stir up mess. Not in the quite like slapstick comedy overt way that Geyser is doing, but in the shadows, puppeteer the strings type way. That could play out interesting when we're trying to like solve these problems with the people falling asleep and figuring out the beast, because the party members all have their own motivations for themselves. And everyone's kind of like, yeah, we'll solve the problem, but I don't think everyone's goal is to solve the problem.
No.
We're just like...
To speak to that, I would like to do a better job of talking more with our party members during session. In character, of course. Our characters are very independent characters. They don't really need other people to like push them to do what they want to do. We're currently being thrown one problem, and we have 6 different people trying to solve it in 6 different ways. I could see this party getting into some conflict later down the line simply because sometimes maybe our goals don't line up. Something that could help is like learning a little bit more. Like I spent a lot of time with Tao and Geyser in like the previous session, but I don't feel like I got closer to Tao and Geyser.
Because we were interacting with the scenery and the non-player characters, as we get a feel for the actions and the motivations for each other's characters, you'll have more information to act on. For example, in the last session, Geyser didn't really have reason to interact with Tao specifically. Further down the line, if there's like more character information or inside information, despite what Tao is doing, there might be an opportunity for that interaction. I don't really see that same problem with Athenos because Geyser at this point is really like the most impressed with Athenos. This is a person who will put up with blatantly hostile actions and be like, yeah, this is great, so much fun. And that's the kind of person that can cause serious problems with little effort. The same kind of goes for Isiri, only because Isiri is like, oh, I'm so nice and I couldn't hurt a fly. People are generally wanting to do the good thing and we'll all work together to be good. That I don't want to call it naivety, but that's what Geyser thinks. The person that Geyser would want to like avoid the most is probably Smog. Because Smog immediately understood what Geyser is trying to do, and that's annoying because that takes the fun out of things. Smog was also trying to sow discord between party members, but was not being present about it. Oh, I'm over here, I'm just a little guy talking to my pals that I got isekai'd with.
One of my, I feel like, crowning achievements so far is getting a huge rise out of Athenos while, like, barely talking to him, just the tiniest nudges, and he's out here taking the roof off a church and screaming at someone. Excellent.
Geyser loves that about Athenos, but does not like that about Smog. If you're gonna cause problems, do it with your chest. Geyser causes problems with it. Part of me is wondering if Athenos will be more guarded. Athenos kind of reads as very himbo vibes, not a brain cell. I'm just throwing around my strength because I have it.
If I was a god, I would be hella problematic. I should not be trusted with that much power. And to speak to like what you were saying about how like Smog only had to do just like a small little nudge and like Thanos was like on it, into the plan. Smog doesn't have to say things with his full chest. As a god, Athenos has very poor impulse control. So he's like, this sounds like a good idea, so I'm gonna go for this idea with my full chest. Thanos will probably be more guarded and have, like, perhaps take a more guarded approach once he's forced to experience the repercussions of his actions. Like, thus far, he has done things primarily how he would have done them in his homeworld, and so far, it's been paying off. Once things go poorly, then he'll be like, into the databank, maybe that wasn't such a great idea. Let me try, like, a different approach.
I'm quite excited for 2 things to happen. One, for something very critical to each of our characters to not work as we expected and then have to recalculate. Love that. That's always fun. And then 2, we've been kind of going beat for beat for beat for beat after a while. I'm very excited for us to get downtime, because jumping back to us talking about inter-character relationships, we really haven't had a second to chill out and like actually talk to each other. Since we got ported on to Sequence Charter, we've been like, oh, we have to go to this concert. Oh, we have to go do this mission. Oh, we have to go to the world of spirit. Now we're sucked in the world of lost. So we really haven't had a moment to catch our breaths and talk as a party. I'm not too surprised that we all each have our own little agenda going, because we don't really know how to work together yet.
The common issue in role-playing games is getting into a crisis mode, and then you're just there for forever. One of the nice things about Interstitial as a game is that there is a set rest point, like it's built into the concept of the game. You will have some downtime eventually to talk about the ridiculous world you just went through. So I'm not too worried about eventually getting to sit down and talk to each other about what the fuck just happened.
Yeah, I'm not worried that we're not going to get there. I just can't wait for it to happen.
I am the same. And I feel like I've started getting that rolling. Like you were saying, we just have like crisis after crisis after crisis. So in this past episode, I was like, I have told no one, absolutely no one, about where I'm from, what I'm doing, like what my goals are. Nothing. So I was like, let me tell Tao, let me tell the villagers, and let me tell Geyser, who are all there. So at least hopefully like some sort of conversation has started between that group of people. Because I feel like the people were scared of us for so long because they were like, who are these guys? And we were just like, we have to solve the mystery.
We also got to learn about maid cafes because of the type of people who use Tao to create music.
Indeed.
A series culture, there's really no point in lying, because they can all sort of sense if you are lying anyway. So she's very open with how she discusses things, but she hasn't really talked about the details of those things. Yeah, we know she's from the deep. Yeah, we know she worships whatever the abyss is, but you don't really know her feelings on these things. I think it's funny that Dee said a moment ago that the series, or at least guys have used them as naive and wouldn't hurt a fly. That is not the case. Siri is very smart. She just is not good in this social context.
Athenos still thinks Isiri was created by Auntie Poseidra. That we're from the same world. I'm pretty convinced that Athenos would probably think that most of us are still from the same world, aside from now someone's mentioned Tokyo, and he's like, what? Who?
Yeah.
Is this a new city?
Geyser's world is quote unquote Earth. I call it Planet Conglom, but basically it's the Earth plus the dream worlds of people that got so powerful that their dream worlds merged with the Earth. And so there is like land displacement. And so like Japan and Australia are the same like landmass. She kind of assumes that everyone was made up like she was, just not in the same way.
That's actually super fascinating, that she thinks that we're all imaginary friends.
Smog has been saying explicitly, like, I'm the stuff of dreams, or at least my people once were. That can't be helping with that concept.
You also keep saying espers, and I'm like, what? Who?
They have powerful beings that head in the dream world, and they have big elemental affiliations, and they put the elements into the earth, and they can come when there's a crystal that has enough ether, it's potent to, appear.
You sure haven't explained any of that.
No.
We only have the condensed, like, oh yeah, you're a strong esper, yeah? And I'm like, who? What? What are you talking about?
Yeah, also like screaming at Isiri for summoning and not explaining why that's such a problem on his world.
I love that we had like a mini conversation regarding that last session where Isiri's like, listen, if we're gonna keep hanging out, this is how I talk to these things. I'm sorry if it offends you. Like, they don't have to pick up if they don't want to. This is just how it goes, man. I'm sorry.
At this point, Smog's like, we're probably going to have to use that to get in contact with the beast again later, but we need to be prepared next time. Just having a conversation like that might not be good.
No.
I'm so curious what's happened to Pony.
Yes, because Carolyn was not available for this particular session, so Dan's going to have to do some finagling off screen.
And now that, like, Horsefly's knocked out, I feel like Pony's gonna lose her shit. Pony was like, oh my god, Horsefly, he's so great.
Pony's gonna lead the charge in the battle, now the horse flies unconscious.
It's the first step of the nightmare arc.
Oh my god.
I would love it if one of us had to like ride on Pony's back with the lance, but Pony's a very squat, cartoonish character. So the imagery would just be very funny.
Smog is the only one who could possibly maybe do it, and even if he put his full weight on her, he would still crush her. He has to like flap his wings to keep above her a little bit.
But wouldn't that be so funny? Like a Moogle riding atop a horse from Shrek?
A miniature horse.
Look, I've been on some miniature chocobo in my time, but whatever this is, none of it. I know about unicorns. What the fuck is a horse?
That's actually hilarious. What the fuck is a horse?
It's funny because, like, that means in your world, Pony is the mythical creature she's always wanted to be.
I think Smog is kind of accepted. She has innate magical powers because we've seen her do magic. And horses aren't very common in Final Fantasy because of Chocobo as mounts. So I don't know how true this is what I've said so far, but it's some nebulous canon.
Pony's been the most apart from the other players. Because Pony, I feel like, is just in love with Horsefly.
And honestly, couldn't have a better pair for a horsefly to stick around the actual horse.
NPC romance enabled.
Oh. It's his frog prince.
Aww.
Speaking of aww, I have to apologize to Susie. Isiri did not mean to scare her.
Oh my goodness, how can I forget? The ability to just be like, I'm going to remove a tooth and give it to this small child. And then be like, what's wrong? This is normal.
It wasn't like she ripped it out by the root. She's part shark. Her teeth just fall out and roll forward, and this one was almost out anyway. So she was just like, here you go, protect yourself. So it was just like, ah!
Poor baby.
Oh my gosh, poor sweet Susie.
This poor child.
Yeah, Smog ended up with that as a gift by the end. Not sure what to do with that.
Use it in the spear.
I think Dan's intent. So I have this new move I already talked about last time, I think, where I can make something for someone's memory as long as I meet conditions set by the DM, and the move has a list of conditions that the GM can give. So I need something from another world, and I need the help of the beast. The help of the beast, Dan said, like, interpret it how you may. You might be able to talk to some people and use their transformations to help make this. We might be able to use the ichor that's laying around. We might have to summon the fucking beast again, who knows. Something from another world, though, I'm very set on I have to get something from the World of the Lost. That has to be the base, and then we use that with the help in order to make it.
I'm so excited.
I like that. Isiri will volunteer to go back into the World of the Lost if you need that. I would like to see what happens in that circumstance, because it's come up a couple of times, and Dee mentioned it just now, so I'm like, what would happen if she went alone?
Geyser probably would want to go back to the World of the Lost too, just because she's so curious, but after that whole bug thing, I'm still like as stressed out about it. My moveset, if I succeed, I can use both the list for Strike with Intent and Strike to Subdue. But that means if I don't pick Defend from Harm, I also just get harmed anyway. I just didn't pick Defend from Harm because I wasn't thinking about it. And I got eaten by a bug. Because of that, the session after that, I was just like, I'm just gonna vibe by the fire with my little crab.
What is something you or your character would have done differently if given the opportunity?
So one of the ways that scouting the area could have gone was Juice crawling up to windows and using the camera for surveillance on Smog's end. If Isiri hadn't been completely horrified by that, would have been creeping on old people.
That's so creepy. It's so creepy.
Geyser would have, instead of trying to trick people into getting mad at each other via sleight of hand, she should have directly talked to everyone, because I think that would have gotten people talking a bit more. In the end, we didn't really get anywhere until Tao and Athenos were like, I'll show you the way.
I can show you. Athenos is still trying to live his best, like, no regrets life. So I would say Athenos himself probably no regrets. Me, though, player B, I would have liked to speak more with Tao and Geyser to come up with, like, formulated plan together rather than 3 individual plans that somehow have managed to work out somewhat. That's where I would have liked to do more, is more communication interplayer.
Yeah, and then for Isiri, I don't know, she didn't really do a lot, technically, in this session. Me as a player is like, I could have asked Silkie some more questions before she passed out, but at the same time I was having some audio processing issues going on, so like I was missing part of the conversation anyway. I don't think there's a lot other than fish for more information, and then Dan's only going to be so selective with what he hands out anyway. So. Alright, so let's get into the resolution phase, the segment of the show where we each get to say something about the game with no responses. What is your final say on this session, Dex?
I am going to continue creating consequences for everyone. You can find me at DexFanWrites. I'm a writer. I hope to be published sometime within the next couple years. So that's DEXPEHAN Writes, WRITES. And also, one thing that everyone should do this Halloween season is watch Over the Garden Wall if you haven't already. Love you!
What about you, Dee?
You can find me at most places at @BacksliderD. If you follow me on Twitter, turn off my retweets. I'm just warning you now. I'm also on PSN at IHadACowLOL. You can add me and we can play games together. For my final thoughts, sometimes the answer is to cause problems.
What about you, Alex?
So I have to, I think, round out my Smog Nasty Arc collection here. Not that Geyser needs any help, but if she was to get even worse, I think she would be the It Girl.
Oh my god! Sorry, I'm not supposed to respond.
Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Shining Crobat. I haven't finished any media recently that I can recommend. So Evergreen, my favorite tabletop game, Sentinels of the Multiverse, is about heroes fighting villains in different environments. Each player takes up a different deck that has a theme based around a certain set of superpowers. They all flow very well. The villains have some good flow to their decks when they fight against you too. There's a digital version that I'll be linking because for some weird reason, the tabletop version does not have a good homepage, but rest assured you can also get it in tabletop.
And for myself, I think we're going to have a really good clash with the beast coming up here shortly, and I hope nobody falls victim to that final slumber. You can find me arranging funerary flowers. Don't worry, I've got a bouquet for you too. This has been Resolve, an after-play show. You can find us online at most social media sites at ResolveAP.
Except Instagram, which is at ResolveAfterPlay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. You can buy the game we're playing, Interstitial Our Hearts Intertwined, from its creator, Riley Hopkins, at linksmithgames.com.
All links will be in the description of the episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We end our turn here, so now it's your turn. Tell us what's happening in your game.